Okay, let's do a soft start here. What's up, everybody? This is Michael Hawkins in the Blue Collar Corner here with a special guest this week. We've been blessed to have Ryan Macdonald here, training with us all week. He's been showing us some very top of the line stuff, and all the guys have been leveling up. I mean, I've seen evolutions from every single one of our athletes, which is really fucking cool to see. It's awesome to learn from one of the Midwest veterans, a UFC vet, and just a very, very talented striker all around. So here in Hebron, Nebraska, we only have like 1,200 people. So bringing anybody high profile to the area and allowing our guys to level up is just an awesome, awesome experience. And I think, there's a lot of people that live in Nebraska or Iowa or Kansas. They're like, oh, well, I'm from the middle of nowhere. Like, there's no resources. I can't really make it to the big stage, right? Can't make it to the UFC. But you are one of those copies that have shown specifically that that is possible.
For sure.
So, if you don't mind, could you talk a little bit about your journey from small town Midwest, even though you came from North Platte, a little bigger than Hebron, but still a small town, and talk about the evolutions that you kind of went through to get to that stage?
Yeah, I mean, I think I came up in the prime of like the information era, the beginning of the information era where, it was at first a challenge like in my amateur career. It's like I really didn't get out and train at another gym until I was fighting for titles and thankfully I had Eli Jesus Sandoval. He invited me out to Kearney, and I still have that relationship now. He's one of my good friends, and I plan to bring him up to the barn. But yeah, it's just one of those things that you need resources to go see other places, other thought processes, other training philosophies, right? But nowadays, you really don't. Like, it's nice to have the connection we do through Bang Muay Thai, and
For sure.
and we've made a stronger bond just from being together. But it's yeah, I mean, there's so much information out there, and if you have the mind to digest it and apply it to your room, all you really need, Chael Sonnen says it best, all you really need to grow and to win at a high level is a guy who kicks your ass, a guy that you kick their ass, and then somebody you go even with, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, that's a good way
And
to put it.
and if you've got all those and you're forcing yourself to drill and add new things to your game and doing what the high level people are doing, you can grow from a town like Hebron,
Just can't do it only on weekends, right? Yeah,
100%.
it's got to
Yeah.
be something you kind of pour yourself into.
Yeah.
So when did you know, was it right from the beginning that you knew that this is what you wanted to do, that you wanted to compete on the highest stage and eventually get into coaching?
My friends tell stories of us grappling in the basement. It was one of the tough finales where Houston Alexander fought Kimbo Slice. Uh, my best friend, my best man at my wedding, he always tells the story of we were grappling on my bed and just watching these UFC fights, thinking they were so cool. And I was probably 17 years old, 16, 17 years old, and I told him I'm going to be in the UFC one day. And he was a lot bigger than me. He boxed, so he was obviously could beat me up at the time, and so he's just kind of letting me. He's the running back of our high school football team. I'm a buck 30, and we're wrestling on my bed. He's kind of throwing me around until he gets tired. The heavier guy tends to
Yeah, yeah,
tire
yeah,
out faster, and so he jumps, lays flat on the bed, and he's like, "Take my arm." And so I wrap up an armbar, fall back as hard as I can. There's a brick wall behind my head and smash my head into the wall. And so it's just a funny story because that moment in my basement, I was telling people
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't really remember it all that well. It was a long time ago, but
Intention goes a long way, and that brick wall may have something to do with not
dude,
remembering it
it
too well.
beat it into my skull.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. No, I mean, there's a lot of people with limited resources, and that's kind of why we built Blue Collar Top Team and Hebron MMA around here. I mean, This was a restaurant at one point. It was True Value at another point, and then once I bought it, it was still like there was a whole bunch of VFW memorabilia all over the place. That's still one of the flags from the old VFW, and I was like, you know what?
History.
I don't just want to build a gym because I grew up in this town, and I
Mhm.
remember being 17 years old and not I would have to drive to Crete, and there was a little gym over there. Jim Small had opened one for Jeremy Small and Charlie DeBray, and it's called Hands to War Mixed Martial Arts. It was just like this little condo suite, like literally probably twice as big as this room, just a little bit of mats. And so I drive 45 minutes to go there to train, but there's not resources that really park themselves in communities like this. And so to give people just an opportunity to try to pour into that and try to see where it goes. Can't everybody make it to the UFC? No. But should you have a dream and
Yep.
desires and goals and at least have a culture and community where they embolden you and you've got somebody to kick your ass, you've got somebody you're even with, you've got somebody that you can kick their ass.
Mhm.
We're creating that culture and we try to impact the community too. That's something that's
Yep.
that's really big about this place. It's a family. And so we've got all the right elements and bringing people like you here just to include all those details because those details really matter. I
Mhm.
mean, the footwork that you've shown
Yep.
all week, just keeping guys just inside that crazy distance where they can't be hit, but they can still hit.
Yep.
That's really where it's at.
Yeah, it's just those details of like I preach this constantly. Like at a high level, like you see guys with good footwork. Probably top 5 guys all have great footwork, but outside of that, like it's such a rare thing. And if you can get like a lot of answers to a lot of solutions to a lot of problems that some fighters have are just positioning, you
Mhm.
know? And when you get good positioning because your feet are in the right place, you're absorbing shots better. This is something that I had to learn because, you know, I would get put down. I think I've been put down in 3 fights. Never been knocked unconscious because I train hard. I feel like that has something to do with it.
For sure.
You know, just the cardiovascular being crazy and just, having good nutrition, all that other stuff, though, all those variables that you can control. Obviously, if you take a shin bone to the chin, you're probably going to sleep, but I've been lucky enough to stay conscious through all my knockdowns. I think I've had 3 or 4 over the years.
Yeah.
And so
It's bound to
now,
happen. You have what, 15 pro fights now?
yeah, 15 pro, 15 amateur, some pro boxing, some amateur boxing. So yeah, it's like now that I've finally starting to understand positioning, it's like it'll be rare if I get put down,
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
having the foundation under me and being able to move in those spots. I have a fighter back home that's super talented, Ezra,
Mhm.
and he moves so well, but his positioning with his feet a lot of times are getting him more linear, and it's kind of an easy takedown where he's falling over guys. So we're just trying to adjust. Like he's got all the footwork as far as where his feet need to be on the punches, but it's just the positioning of his knees and
Just minor adjustments. That's why those details matter so much, and having somebody that is at that at least that high IQ level where they can see, your foot's out of position 2 inches or something, because it is that minor.
yep. Knee
Um,
placement too, like the bend in his knees. Like a lot of times he's standing real tall.
yeah,
So yeah, that's it's huge.
yeah,
But no, back to what you said on just having this training center here, um, this gym, the school, whatever you consider it, right? It's all those things in one, which is so cool. But if you're an athlete and you're doing it from a small town, I remember the chip on my shoulder that I had in
yeah.
North Platte. Like, I'm gonna show you guys that we can be something, And I'm glad that I have gotten away from my hometown because of just the distractions that it can be, right? If you're in a town of I think it's 25,000 there, and you've been there your entire life and know the majority of people. Um, there's not always the greatest people
Sure.
in,
Yeah.
in some places, and North Platte, I feel that way. And there's a lot of really good people. Some of my best friends in the world, the most loved people are there, but also there's the not so good people.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's like,
everywhere. Yep.
so I like to surround myself with the good people, and if you have that mind and you can weed out, just like we were talking about with having that intuition, right? Like
Yeah.
you can feel like, okay, that guy's a snake,
Yeah.
just push that to the
Yeah.
side
You gotta
and
have good people.
get them away from you and
This
stay
place is
around you.
not a school, not a gym, not a training facility if it doesn't have good culture.
Yep.
Like, that's just my personal opinion. If I was a smart businessman, I definitely would have parked a gym in a bigger town where there's more money to be made. So it's obviously not about business for me. It's more about trying to get people to that level. I've noticed, I've so I started competing in Nebraska in 2014, and I was just a young wrestler in college that thought that he could fight and didn't really take training all that serious, all that much. And I had trained from when I was 17, but of course I had some experiences where I went to jail and I was just kind of a knothead. But once I went to college, my wrestling coach, he basically made me have an ultimatum because I was trying to play rugby and wrestle and do MMA all at the same time. And he was like, look, you need to choose. So I chose MMA, but what I've noticed in Nebraska specifically, because I've been to Florida and seen their amateur MMA scene, been to other states and seen their amateur MMA scene, is that we're a little bit regressed. We're a little bit farther back in terms of skill. So once the guys in Nebraska end up going even Midwest or national, there's almost this big bridge that they have to cross in terms of skill set. Because
Hmm.
I mean, maybe you can talk about this, but the bridge between amateur to professional, it's big because
Hmm.
it professional, everybody's doing, well, for the most part, doing all the right things to
Yep.
be there, to stay there.
Hmm.
At amateur, you can skate by or you can get good fights, leading up to that. But at a certain point, you stop getting easy fights, quote
Hmm.
unquote.
Yep.
Um, so offering a facility that, brings people like you in and puts that right information there and creates that right structure, and it's very important to me, at least for my guys, even if nobody from out of town takes advantage of that. Um, can you touch on the difference that you've seen? Because now you train in Indiana with a much bigger facility. How many students do you guys
Hmm.
have?
I think 400 members there total.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive. Um, what have you seen that's different from Nebraska to where you are now?
It's I would say the amateur scene is much evolved as of late. Um, but I also don't have like I have two shows that I go to and they're high level Indiana shows.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
usually APFC or Art of Scrap. And so they're bringing in the best amateur
Yeah.
talent. So what I really need to do is just get down to some of them smaller shows in Indiana and kind of compare the two. But
Sure. Yeah.
um, yeah, definitely there are some high level amateurs. Um, but for me, when I made the jump to professional, it was okay. And what I'm doing as an amateur gonna cut it? In my head, I said no. I was training at a gym with not many fighters. I think we had 5 or 6 guys competing, which is fine. That's not the problem. The coaching, they at the time they had like kind of the same rotation of classes. It was like I'd say they have like 6 classes that they kind of rotate, which is like that was an issue. I needed new stuff. I needed to be drilling new stuff. Um, but when I went pro, I told myself I was like, I need to, you know, by whatever it is, like if it's an online curriculum, if it's studying fights. Like I remember early on in my pro career, like if I missed the UFC, I would be so pissed off because I missed out on knowledge.
Mhm.
And that's how it is. Even today, I'm like studying what's going on in these fights and trying to recreate it every week because there's just so much you can learn with, especially with the volume of fights that we have nowadays. Like you can learn so much. I think it was Max Holloway that said it best. That was, this sport is easy, and then somebody cut back on him like, the sport's easy. It's like, nah, well, it's not. But if you recreate what the people at the top are doing,
For
the
sure.
people who are winning, if you try to recreate what they're doing, it's easy. It's
Yeah.
easy to access all of that too. You can go into a gym where a bunch of high level guys is training at and ask them questions. Everybody's so
Yep.
open
Yep.
on.
Yep.
And that's how it is. Like I've
Yeah.
just traveled and been at gyms all over the nation now, and been to Thailand, been to Canada, and just been in all these gyms and trained at all these different places and asked questions. And, even at a level where I feel like I have such a good understanding of all martial arts, don't be too proud to ask questions.
Yeah. White belt at heart. Success
100%.
leaves clues. I don't know who said that, but that is a
I like
famous
it.
quote. That
Yeah.
is for sure.
But
Uh,
yeah, I asked myself, early professional, is this what I'm gonna do? Is it gonna cut it? And I told myself I would never work full time as I'm fighting as a pro. So as long as I've been a professional martial artist, this has been my job. I've been doing private lessons to help people grow, which in turn helps me grow because as a
yeah.
coach, when you're teaching, you're also learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're open with your students, they love that too. Like nobody's got all the answers,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and you
That's
know,
the thing I love about martial arts, and it doesn't matter like what discipline. You don't have to stay in, people that are just versed at mixed martial arts. You can go dabble in somebody that's very versed in boxing. I started in traditional boxing with Carlos Arredondo down in Florida, and he was just a big proponent of death by drills, as he would call it. He would just sit and watch me shadow box and watch me do these drills, and I mean, footwork was the primary thing that we focused on.
yeah.
And I mean, he took that death by drills very seriously. Like I
Mhm.
can remember that was probably the only time I've ever been down to 146, 147.
Okay. Yeah.
Felt miserable. I mean, Florida heat has something to do with that, but
Mhm.
the style of that traditional boxing translated, and it, oh,
Pause.
we can edit that out. Don't worry. Uh, that traditional boxing definitely translated over to what I do now. And there's some strengths, some weaknesses, but you can learn from just about everything, even Taekwondo.
Yep.
So, talk about some of the most formative guys that you've worked with as far as coaches, because, like you were just touching on before, there's always somebody you can learn from. There's
Mhm.
always, you're never too good to think you know it all, which nobody does. That's the beauty of this sport; it evolves and changes every day.
Mhm.
So, talk about some of the most formative guys that you've worked with, and some of the things that they've done or instilled in you.
Yeah, as far as jujitsu goes, Coach Mike Lee, right, from the Fight Lab, he's so good about studying jujitsu like I am studying MMA. His mind for that is so great. He goes to all these tournaments with all these different jujitsu competitors and does the same thing that I do in MMA, where I'm seeing these things and adding them to my MMA game. He's doing that, and we're working such new stuff all the time. And with jujitsu, it's kind of like there's a meta game always. So there's always a game inside the game that some people are working on, and you've got to either figure it out to defend it or figure it out because you want to add it to your offense. Um, so yeah, that's really cool. Part of jujitsu is like there's that little game, and he's always hip to all the new stuff in the
Yeah, I see
circuit
that. Yeah,
for
yep,
sure.
yep. Pretty much lives on that map.
Hmm.
So
So yeah, as far as coaches, I mean, Dwayne's been awesome. As far as I've been, seeing out experience with Dwayne since 2015 was my first Bang Muay Thai seminar, And then, I was on the YouTube every single week just trying to, again, recreate what he was doing. And for the longest time, he was giving all that out for free. And, it was just up on YouTube. And yeah, I was doing a lot of drills in my class from other kickboxing coaches like Jesus Sandoval I talked about, and then I would you know pull in some Bang Muay Thai from the YouTube. I'd pull in some. I had instructional videos like a Kevin Ross, Bob, I think it's Bob Perez, those guys, and there was like a 4 hour seminar, and I bought that tape a long time ago. I bought Duke Rufus tapes a long time ago, and so that's how I was like learning for a little bit, and then getting out to Omaha. Anthony Smith invited me out. Um, my first pro fight, so I went out and trained with McDoyle's, and Trey Smith was there at the time, and he
So
was
you just took every opportunity you could
yeah.
find to get better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Just
So cross training has never been taboo in your mind. That's
no,
one of those things about
no.
the sport. In some gyms, cross training, it just seems like it's not allowed, like it's
Hmm.
not accepted, but
Yeah,
so valuable. So
it
valuable.
is. It is. I think that really you have to know there is a time where cross training is like, you probably shouldn't,
Yeah, understand that.
and when you're in camp, yeah, I think that that's a value that I have is like if you have cross trained at this place several times and you've got a good connection here, like
Mhm.
you know, say I come here two or three more times, really get to know the team, and you know, I can trust that everybody's going to take care of me,
Yeah.
and this is the spot where I want to cross train. There's no problem there.
Mhm.
But when you're trying to pop into a new gym and you're 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
Oh yeah.
even 4 weeks before a fight, and then you're going, red line with all their top guys and stuff.
Chance of cuts and injuries and all
Yeah,
around. Yeah,
all of that, and even worse, the heel hooks and
for sure. Yeah.
popping a knee, like something that can really put you out for a long time. Um, yeah, it's that's really the only time it's not. I wouldn't even say it's frowned upon. It's just like for my students, I would be like, hey, like
Time and a place.
yes, like
Yeah.
chill out. If you need a sim round, like a simulation round, we can control that. Like we brought in John Scott and Mason, his student, for Sway a couple weeks ago,
Mm.
and we did a full 3 round fight. Sway's a pro, Mason's an amateur, talented amateur, and we put 2 3 minute rounds for Mason and then one 5 minute round for Sway, and they got after it, and both coaches are there, so
Yeah.
if anything got too out of hand, we could stop it,
Yeah.
and really that's when you're okay because you're fully geared up, right? Um, yeah, and
I've seen that happen many times in the boxing gym down in Florida too with
yep,
Coach Derek Santos. And, there was even one issue that was televised. It was a big deal. Carissa Shields thought that
yep.
there were some gloves that were,
Oh,
taking some
shoot.
padding out of it and stuff.
Dang.
But no, that cross training does happen all
Yeah.
the time
Yep.
between two coaches. And, that the mutual respect, obviously, there's a lot of background there with two individuals and trust and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you want to be able to go into a sim round and know that, like, hey, even if this guy, for example, there was an arm bar in our sim round, and we got the tap from the arm bar, but imagine if we weren't there training, and then the egos of the two athletes got in the way, and then there's a
Which can happen pretty easy.
popped arm, or you know maybe the guy slams his way out of it and knocks out the bottom guy. There's just a lot that can happen. But
Yeah.
being there as the coach and being, you can get in the ring and stop and be like, oh, chill out, guys, and it's just a way more controlled setting where it's not just you isolating yourself in a gym to feel like you're in a fight, and then but really the whole other room is against you and they don't care if you get hurt.
Mhm.
That's
Yep, that's a good point.
that can be dangerous.
Yep.
I remember traveling to Arizona for one of my fight camps, and we stopped at Fight Ready in Phoenix, and Henry Cejudo had me do rounds with Bruno. I can't remember Bruno. He's still in the UFC today at flyweight, I believe. But did some rounds with Bruno, and he had no knee pads on, no elbow pads, and he got a takedown, and I'm kind of working my way up, throwing punches, and then he pins me against the cage and throws an elbow without a pad, and I'm just at this point I'm pissed off. So I get up and like we're throwing down for the rest of the round, but you know, thankfully it didn't cut me,
Hmm.
but it could have,
Yeah.
and I was I think 5 weeks out before my UFC fight too. So it's
Hard to
like
heal up before that.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like for me, I was a young kid, 26, and didn't really have a coach of my own at the time. And if I could have had somebody steer me away from that, like, hey, just come here, train with us, don't worry about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So make sure you trust where you're going to cross train, but it
100%.
still has value in the time and the
100%.
place.
Yep.
So if you could give, like, I know there's an endless list of advice that you can give to up and coming fighters that maybe think that this is something that they want to do long term. Not everybody will do it long term, but for those guys that are like in their mind, they really want to do it. Maybe they second guess it a little bit, maybe they don't. What's the short list of advice that you could give them? Train hard, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what everybody should be doing, right?
For
That's
sure.
that's the gold standard. Like that's if you're not training hard, you're putting yourself at such a disadvantage.
And risk.
Yeah. And so that's rule number one. Obviously, just put the work in. You know, before you accept a fight, write down a 6 week, 8 week plan of what, like a structure your camp and do what you want to do to get to your goal. And if your goal is bigger than your workload, then you need to switch that around.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your workload needs to be it needs to match your goals.
Yeah, and your coach should be able to help you do that too.
Yeah,
You should
for
have
sure.
that trusted team, kind of going back to what you were saying before. Most importantly, somebody to beat you up,
Hmm.
somebody that you're even with,
Hmm.
somebody that you can start to put the pace on as well.
Yep.
And obviously, there's more than just three people in the room, but at a minimum, having that kind of a structure to where you can grow.
Yep.
I think a lot of guys fall into the trap that's like, oh, I'm just naturally gifted. I'm going to naturally make it.
Yeah.
You, there are some naturally talented guys, but I
Hmm.
mean, not everybody's Justin Gaethje. Like, it just doesn't work that way. You don't just come out of the gate and have really solid fundamentals all
Hmm.
around. Um, so,
And he's a guy in my eyes that like people have talked about it in the gym. You don't see Justin win a lot of rounds,
mm,
but you don't see him lose a lot of rounds in fights.
for sure.
Um,
Yep.
it's just how it goes. He, I would say, yeah, he's kind of your example of like such a hardworking guy, and then he shines when he's under the lights.
Mhm.
So, as far as what you should be doing, outline that structure, stick to it, but also be intentional about growth. We talked about having that one new trick that you've added to your game every fight because again, we live in the information era
Mhm.
and your fights are going to be out there and I'll know my opponent to a T. Like my last fight, I've never game planned more than that and I knew what he was going to do before he did it. And so being able to have all that, you need a new trick to show
Mhm.
off. Like I opened my fight with my new trick my last time. I faked a shot, put my hand on the ground. Brookins went and reached for the takedown to pick me back up, and I kicked him in the head for it. It was just a fake shot into a head kick.
I suppose this is as good of a time as any, but I've noticed with the BMT structure itself, and you can expand on this quite a bit, but how much has it increased your fight IQ over the years? And I see it as an endless art. Like, there's so much creativity that happens from it, not only from the black belts, but sometimes you just see guys naturally doing the drills, doing something that's like that's not right, but That's interesting.
Yeah.
There's endless angles there. How much has
Mhm.
that contributed to your growth in the sport?
Yeah, it's like your foundation, and it will open up every other creative thing that you want to do. It's set up by your fundamentals,
Mm.
So where I say this all the time, where something may seem wrong, if you know why you're doing it, like a rear step, if you know why you're doing a rear step, because you're closing that space so much quicker, if you don't hang out there, and if I don't repetitively do that rear step, if I do that over and over and over again, there's a counter to it. Just like anything, there's counterplay to most of everything that you have in mixed martial arts.
Mhm.
So if you're not being predictable, you can make anything in this sport work, essentially.
Mhm.
Like, it's got to be thought out. It's got to be something that you do, you practice, not just diving in. Sure, you can get away with diving in and throwing a big right hand, but if you do that every time, you're going to get
Yeah.
punished for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I go back to Carlos again. One of the first times he ever gave me homework after practice, he was like, "When you come back tomorrow, I want you to be able to tell me 6 different kinds of jabs." And at the time, I'm like, "What do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
I only know one jab." And then
Hmm.
I come back the next day after doing some homework, and I'm like, "Okay, so there is 6 different
Yeah.
kinds of jabs, and
Hmm.
obviously still endless angles off of that, depending on what we do with our
Yep.
feet." And so I think that was one of those educational moments for me from him, that the sport is almost infinite. And that's where I started looking at it a little bit more like an art rather than um, any science to it whatsoever. I know it's often referred to as a sweet science, but it's not that way. It's definitely an art. And well, let's see.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's
What else can we talk
on,
about?
on top of that. I mean, to go full circle, like, there's nutrition, and then there's staying healthy, right? As far as your body, recovery and all of that stuff. Like, I've had almost every injury in the book. Broke my neck, C6, C7 area, and that's what I'm like constantly battling with right now. Is now I'm asking myself, hey, do I fuse it and then you know do that for the rest of my career, because there's no going back
Yeah.
after a fusion. Um, so yeah, it's like there's a lot of different variables that you can control. If I would have been healthier with my nutrition over the years, you know, who knows what injuries I could have avoided.
Yeah. Retrospect is
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. So there's, I guess, one of the big elements that is a recommendation for anybody that's deciding that they want to do something. And it doesn't have to be just for mixed martial arts, anything athletic. Take care of your nutrition, take care of that stuff that you put in your body. Make sure that you're actually aware of it. And when you're young in 20s, man, you can get away with fueling with bad stuff,
Hmm.
McDonald's and stuff.
Yep.
You just don't feel it as much. And then you start getting closer to 30s and it starts to catch up with you.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, thankfully, you know, in the current state that I'm in now, married, my wife is amazing, and she hooks it up, and she's very health conscious, so she's always making good food. But yeah, when I'm out here on trips, right, I'm eating Runza and just Casey's Pizza.
that actually brings me to another point though. Have a supportive partner in your corner,
Yeah,
because it does take a lot from you to contribute to the path. And if your home life is a bigger battle than your gym life, then that definitely is going to make it hard. So make sure that the people in your corner support you. Sometimes I think you told me a story about how your mom told you to get a job,
yep, yep.
but you believed in it
Hmm.
so strongly at that point that
Oh
you
yeah,
just stayed dedicated to it. So you also have to be able to understand when people maybe don't see what you see, maybe don't understand and feel what you feel, because that is a real part of it. The fighter's heart is something that we can't measure.
yep.
It cannot be measured. We can't estimate it. Um, You're the only person that feels that. So if you feel that, go for it. But make sure you do all the right things in the process too.
Mhm.
Don't try to be a part-time guy. I look at it as you're endangering yourself, especially as mixed martial arts gets better and evolves. I mean, how easy is it for you to blow your knee out with a heel hook? And we
Oh
see
yeah.
heel hooks much more commonly in today's MMA than
Mhm.
ever. It's so easy, and somebody could do it unintentionally, just you know, being rigid. You could do it unintentionally by trying to defensively get out of it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
there's concussions. There's lots of things that can happen that are permanent. So all the right things. Uh, so, are you at liberty to talk about your next steps in general?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what do you have planned for the future? Are there any more Ryan McDonald main event fights
Oh,
coming
for
up?
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I plan to compete November 21st for Artist Scrap. So no opponent yet. We'll go through all that process of finding somebody and dialing in a camp. My first big priority is just having my training space available. I have a full 2,500 square foot pole barn that I'm turning into this awesome gym that's going to be for me just my dream gym.
Yeah, that cage is sick. That
Yeah,
thing is awesome.
yeah. So having the cage in there, I'm gonna have these awesome mats, just a cot in there, just so that I can bring in some of my friends that I've trained with over the years, and all kinds of just different athletes that I've looked up to,
Mhm.
and tried to recreate what they're doing without training with them, and
Yeah.
bring them in for seminars, and
Yeah.
just have a great community of seminars back home. It's not that we get a lot of jujitsu seminars, and we've been super blessed with the people that we've had in. Mike Perez from Atos. He's now at Victory MMA with Jocko.
Yeah.
Um, he's been great. He's came out for 2 full weeks. Atos's head wrestling coach way back when, Coach Fred Levy, he came out and did two whole weeks as well.
Nice.
That's where I got the idea of this intensive camp for me coming out for the week.
Mhm.
And yeah, both those guys were just incredible. And we've had Nikki Sullivan out, uh, tons of high level jujitsu people. I'd like to bring out MMA folks,
Mhm.
kickboxing folks,
Well,
just
like you were saying, it's the information age where we have access to all these people
yep.
directly,
Hmm.
within minutes. And so,
Yep.
Onyx has kind of been that the staple to prove that you don't really need prime location and
Hmm.
marketing and all that other stuff to make gyms successful. You could be out in a countryside. You could be in the middle of nowhere, anywhere in the country, and still get great culture, great
Hmm.
training, and great atmosphere all around. So I know that's probably something that's in your very near future because just the way that you coach. I mean, just this week, I think the guys have went through more evolution than they have in the last 4 or 5 months.
That's
And,
awesome. That's very,
and
very humbling for me. Um, yeah, I love the team here. Everybody's super cool, and I look forward to tuning in to their upcoming kickboxing, and I think Anthony has the MMA fight, right? So just
nobody's got an MMA fight
okay,
on schedule yet. They're
okay,
all kickboxing and
okay.
Muay Thai right
Gotcha.
now. So,
Okay.
but we're always looking down the line.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it is coming up.
Yeah. And to touch back on um, people that we have for seminars as far as kickboxing, um, I've got so much like growth and mindset growth from PJ McGee, and yeah, he's just been super crucial for my kickboxing development. So I love training with PJ. Anybody that
Shout
knows
out to
PJ,
tier one.
yeah, tier one striking,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
New gym. Where's he at?
Lafayette, Colorado, which
Yeah,
is Denver. So
yeah, nice. New facility. If you're ever in Denver, definitely check it out. Uh, one of these days, I'll get over there to train with PJ. I'm always mesmerized by just the sequence, footwork. I mean, it's just man, it makes it look like an art, really.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's some you'll see a lot of pad work online and whatnot, and some of it's just like, yeah, well, the pad holder's doing more work than anybody. But
Yeah.
with PJ, it's like, wow, dude, that's
Mhm.
fucking creative. And
Yep.
some of the stuff that you come up with too, you can see those influences, the elements. You can see Dwayne Ludwig in your movement. You can see
Mhm.
PJ. It's just, it's really cool. So, what other martial arts have you worked with in the past?
I started boxing my freshman year of high school, and it was just one of those things I just kind of was a tag along with my friends. Did that for a summer. I mean, I liked it, but I wasn't like how I am now, obsessed with,
Mhm.
the art. Um, Probably because of the stage I was as a kid, just, early development. I think basketball was a huge goal of mine to,
Explains the
play.
footwork. Yeah.
Yeah, to play at a high level in basketball, which I never could do. But then went from boxing to my junior year of high school. I got into a street fight, ended up getting taken down, and so got beat up. But started learning mixed martial arts after that because I had seen Never Back Down shortly
Oh
after.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is cool. I didn't know that there was a thing out there like this,
Yeah, that was a
right?
badass movie back in the
Hmm.
day.
So that's when I started training more jujitsu, but uh, because the gym that I was at for uh, MMA was called Flat Rock Fitness. It was owned by Big Rob Mitchell, uh, and that was open for about a month, 2 months after I started, and then closed. And so I was just kind of training YouTube
Mm.
with we were on a tarp in my backyard of my friends that would go to
Hey
train with
man,
me
that
at,
works.
Flat Rock Fitness, which is kind of funny. I want a little memento up in my gym because I live on Flat Rock Road,
Oh, nice.
right?
How full circle is that?
And the gym is on Flat Rock Road. So
That's
yeah, I want
hilarious.
to put a memento for Flat Rock Fitness, the first
Oh,
ever MMA gym I trained at.
nice.
So yeah, but yeah, that's kind of how it started. It went from boxing to MMA to Taekwondo shortly after, and then did that for a little bit. Not too in depth, just like solo private lessons, and uh, kind of jumped in on an occasional Taekwondo class every now and again,
Mm.
and would point spar with the kids. I thought that
Yeah,
was a lot
yeah,
of fun.
yeah.
I'd point spar with the black belt instructors, and then point spar with the kids, and yeah, and then after that, it was competing in MMA, competing in boxing, and opening up my gym about 4 years later.
Nice.
So
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Well, let's talk about something controversial here.
let's do it.
Ian Gary, Islam Makhachev. We got to cover. What's going to happen here? Ian Gary, he's been training with Charles Oliveira down in Shootbox. He's got some good jiu-jitsu. Can it overcome the Dagestani wrestling?
Oh man, I don't like Ian
It's a
Gary.
loaded question.
I don't like Ian Gary, and I hate the fact that we could have him as our world champion. I think strongly that he is like stylistically such a hard matchup for Islam.
Sure. Yep. He's tall.
So
He's very tall.
very tall, but
Yep.
he's the type of annoying striker that could just jab you for 5 rounds.
Yep. Yep.
Because he's got such good footwork.
Yep.
Um, which I like to watch him fight, but I hate to hear him talk.
We just watched Ilya Taporia have this prediction that he was going to win, and it backfired drastically.
Yeah.
You saw Ian had that shadow box made for his future world title
Oh
belt.
wow.
So he's kind of foreshadowing in the same way that Ilya did. So
Mhm.
hopefully it pans out for him. But I just, I'm a big believer that Khabib is one of those coaches, and you can't replicate like what his dad gave to him, and that kind of what's in his heart. We go back to you can't measure the fighter's heart. Khabib's definitely got something special, and he's definitely something special when it comes to coaching as well. So
Mhm.
it's just a hard challenge to overcome. He's got good striking, but styles make fights. We'll see.
Yep.
I'm going for Islam on this one.
I think if he can hurt Islam, if any of his strikes can make a mental like downfall, like
Just make him second guess a little bit.
that's it. Because with confident guys like that, you have to put something in their way that's gonna stifle something. Like it's got to be a bum leg because you kicked the perennial nerve and you're messed up and you can't move, or you broke their arm with a kick. He's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna hurt him with a submission. A submission
That's going to be a
threat.
tough challenge, a very tough challenge.
Right.
Doesn't matter
So
how good a jujitsu you have. I mean,
So it's gonna be have to be on the feet. You're gonna have to maybe even rock him with a punch, like just change that dynamic. I mean, so much was said of TJ and Renan Barao when that first fight happened because he rocked him early. Like I remember everybody's like, "Oh, he only beat him because he wasn't the same person after he got rocked." And then we seen the second fight,
mhm.
right? But that can be true in some fights. You see people they get hurt early and then they just yeah, it's just a snowball effect. Like that storm of getting hurt, you can't recoup mentally, and you're gonna need to hurt Islam like that so that he's coming to the corner,
It's going to
worried.
be a good fight. That is for sure.
Hmm.
So,
But yeah, I got Islam.
yeah, for sure. I'm on that page too. I don't think that it's I don't know. I really love the intuition and I love the manifestation. I think that's a good attribute to have, but I think you can also take it too far. And
Hmm.
that's a danger with some guys is like you just shut up and put in the work,
It's
really.
a
You
new
know?
thing, really, though, that like you have a guy like Gaethje that's like, I've been knocked out.
Yeah.
Like I don't,
That was the most gangster thing he could do too.
you know.
Just came in and just starched him the whole
Uh,
time. And granted, he had a couple body shots that really hurt him, but he recovered and he
hmm.
had time to just work the game plan. And going back to the having a solid coach that's got extreme fight IQ in your corner. I mean, Trevor Whitman, he is probably one of the highest fight IQ coaches out there, and
Hmm.
I just think that attributed so much their chemistry as a team, culturally. It was just too hard for Taporia to overcome. I think Khabib and Islam have the same dynamic.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
well, anything else you want to touch on? If you're out there and you're deciding you want to do this and want to be the next Midwest Ryan main event Macdonald, make sure you train hard, eat your Wheaties, and train with the right people. At least get in rooms and get some looks and make sure that you're checking all the boxes and have a plan.
Yep.
Know where you're going.
Intentionality, you should write down. We do this with our athletes. Like, if I was to fight me, how would I beat me? And constantly ask yourself that question, because sometimes you're going to be slacking in certain departments.
Yeah,
Sometimes you're going to be, really liking striking. Sometimes your grappling's going to fall off. And you're going to have to constantly ask yourself, hey, how would I beat me? All over the years, it's going to change.
that answer is going to change almost every fight too.
Yep.
Every
So
fight you take.
always ask yourself that, and then put the intentionality behind it, and then figure it out, iron out those kinks, and try to make yourself as bulletproof as you can.
Sure. Well, thank you. I appreciate this conversation with you.
Yes,
It's been
sir.
a blast having a full week to
I
train
know.
with them. If you guys didn't make it out to this intensive MMA camp this year, we are going to have another one next year. Date to be determined, but a full week long training camp. It's good for everybody. So even if you train in Lincoln and Omaha, Lexington, wherever you are, just make the trip. We've got some accommodations here in Hebron, so
Heck
uh,
yeah.
just come on out. It was valuable, I tell you that. Being able to switch stances adequately and in the proper range is everything, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Today's MMA, if you can't switch stances, you're at a disability.
For
So,
sure.
all right. Well, this is Blue Collar Corner. We are out.